Hey, folks, it's Lindsey Hudson with SPS back in the building for another episode of the SPS Edge Show. That's right. And I got the crew all with me. Got Coach Orlando Watkins holding us down. He's been doing some great things with the City of Detroit basketball, Cody High School, and more. Glad to have him. And I got my guy, Terry McCord Jr. in the building. Terry, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. We got some good topics. So, I can't wait to get it going. It's been all over social media all week.
Hey, man, let me tell you something. I call this episode, it's going to be some smoking in the city.
Yeah.
Because it's going down. Out the gate, we already got a hello from Latasha Prince. Hey, y'all. Hey, Latasha, how you doing? Thanks for always supporting the show and what's going on. We're going to have a special guest join us in a moment. That's going to be none other than Mr. Leland Stein III. Great sports journalist, has so much history, decades of covering sports, particularly for the African-American press, and we're going to have him come and join in a second. But with that being said, guys, we want to welcome everyone to the show. Got a lot of things to talk about. I will just say this, and I will continue to say this throughout the night. Let's talk about all factors, all facets. We can have the barbershop conversation. We can have the salon conversation. We can have the gym conversation. But let's bring it back to church and talk about a solution going in the right direction. I want to see if I can bring our guest Leland Stein in right now to see how this can go. I got the love from D1 Lex talking about this is fire. We appreciate it. Here we go. Brother Stein, if you can hear us, we can hear you. We just want to get your camera on, so you may just want to go back in and hit the part that says access camera, unless you're doing something you don't want us to see.
No.
We'll get you set in a second. He's going to come back on in a second, but we're going to have Brother Stein here in a minute. He has so much to share, and I'm grateful for him making time. Oh, okay. Patricia England says she's in the truck headed home. She says, hey, checking us out. Yeah, my mother, and she's checking us out. I'm sure she's going to have something to say when she gets stationary, and that's it. But as we work on Leland Stein coming in, man, it's just been a number of things going on, man. Let's just talk about, in general, guys, how you guys feel about just the state of affairs of just the topics going on, not just today in sports. We got Ron saying, what's up? Ron says, what's next for Emoni Bates? This is a mess. Yeah, we're going to get right into that for sure. What do you guys just think about just the nature of the conversations that's being had right now with everything?
I think right now, I think sports is sort of reflecting the rest of society. It almost feels like our topics is what Real Housewives type topics. We've taken on this reality television persona all over. It's exciting in one breath, but in the other, it's ridiculous. You know what's going on right now, the sensationalism and everything else. But it is what it is. This is America today. So
yeah, they talk about sports imitating life. So just as you see stuff happening, in the sports world, these are the same things that play out in life, especially as it relates to relationships and things like that. What are you thinking, Terry?
Yeah, it just shows, man, sports is interconnected with the real world, like what Coach Watkins is saying. It's all this is coming full center, and it shows, when you don't have stuff taken care of at home, or you're not getting your mind right, or, you're not, making sure that, you're not pouring into yourself the right way, that, it can bleed out into your profession. Brett Farve, Ime, different people that, not handling business at home, which we'll talk about later. How are you engaged to Nia Long since 2015? I just had to at least say that right now. I'm still puzzled on that. So,
well, without any further ado, let's just get right into it, man. Let's get right into it. We'll talk about the first topic. As a matter of fact, we'll talk about Emoni first, because that's what we got. We want to keep with the order of what's going on, because I know some people may be watching for this. And then even with our guy, Ron, he made the comment, what's next for Emoni Bates? So if you've been living under a rock and you don't know what's been going on, Emoni Bates was arrested and charged with 2 felonies recently for having a concealed firearm, and also having the numbers that is on the firearm on the altered, referring to the serial number that is, and that's definitely a felony. Now, I'll add a little bit more context to that. When you talk about letters being altered, numbers being altered on a serial number, the reality is this. Let's keep it all the way 100. That's when some, dirty business is going to be done. That's when they say a gun is dirty, or they may have a body on it, that a gun may have been used in the commission of a crime to kill someone, or maybe set up to do that. So that's the other concerning part. I think it's fair to bring up those facts. Ron comes in. He says, I pray for the kid, but a lot of people say that he a product of his environment. He be on like talking that gang stuff, going home was the worst thing for him. Well, Ron, you kind of summed it up, man. You're going to make us move on from this segment real quick. I mean, I'll go around. I'll start with you, Orlando. What's your take on everything that's going on?
Well, Ron Charles had it right. At this point, all we can do is pray for the young brother. I don't understand that coming home was the worst thing for him, I think. But I mean, for me, he's been such a high-profile prospect for so long. You would think that his camp, those people surrounding him, would do everything they can to protect him. I'm not understanding.
Well, I want to stay with that before I go to you, Terry. I mean, and I just, for the record, I've always been a fan of Emoni. I know his dad, and I know it's been pretty much a tumultuous time because it always seems that every step along the way in his growth, something would happen. He would leave and go to a different school. It didn't seem to work out in Memphis, but there's always this alternating story, which kind of comes down to the issue we have right now. Right now, he's being held on 2 felonies for having a concealed weapon and the serial numbers being altered. But there's also his counter story that it's not his car. And I think there's something that's not his gun. So that's the consistency we hear. Same thing goes back to his time at Memphis. He ended up missing a significant part of the season and actually being gone for a significant amount of time because it was said that he had back issues. Now, for the record, because it's all about full disclosure, diagnosing a back is one of the hardest things to do. If you really have an issue in Orlando, I know you know about that conversation.
I got them back issues, so I know. I have them back issues, so I know.
Yeah, so it's not to say you can't argue otherwise that it was wrong. So the reason why I was so quick to say that we're going to talk about it today and have it out here is simply because, man, I just think it's the opportunity to air it all out, man. And people may say I'm tired of hearing about Emoni and all these type of things, but just to air it all out with a goal of talking about what kind of solution can we have. Latasha says, sad situation, praying for his elevation requires separation. Yeah, elevation requires separation. What are you thinking, Terry, about everything that's going on?
I think it's something that we got to talk about because, he's one of the best players that we've seen in Michigan in a while, projected to be a top 3 pick in the draft, so, I mean, he's a Gatorade player of the year at a young age, started his own prep school, Ipsy Prep. So, I mean, we got to touch on it, but, I mean, the kid needs help, man. It obviously shows that his community and things that are going on, he's not being held accountable. He's being allowed to kind of just slip by. Obviously, there needs to be a change of how he operates different things, whether, someone kind of takes over like personal public relations with people and things like someone needs to step in and help him out. But I'm upset because now you go from D1 to MAC. What's the next step? Do you go JUCO or D2? I mean, the lower and lower you get, the harder it is to climb back up to that NBA radar. I mean, yes, his name is there, and he's a good ball player, but you got to be able to handle your business off the court, as we'll see later on today. So it just, you feel bad for the kid. Ton of potential, someone that we all wanted to see the hype, carry out for him. But if you're not handling stuff both on the court and off the court, it's going to bleed into one or the other.
No, Terry, you're absolutely right. And when you talk about that roll back, I mean, we're already talking about how do you, make do and help them on a roll back. But the sad part, and I have to emphasize this, man, it's almost like, what did Rod say? Too much, too fast. Yeah, I'm not surprised at that statement. You're right. But it's like, gosh, man, we steady trying to figure out how do we fix what we never even saw the real part come. He was looking at going to Michigan State. He walked away from that. End up going to Memphis with 3 Hall of Famers, man, at least 2.5, talking about Penny Hardaway, Larry Brown, and Rasheed Wallace. I mean, you can't get a better scenario. And for whatever reason, that didn't work out. And I think what's also worth discussing is this is a cautionary tale. Now, his career isn't over. We don't know what the future can hold. But to all these athletes out here, man, it's easy to say, I wouldn't do this, I wouldn't do that. But you never really know until you're put in that situation. Now, the rumblings are he's always had some other extra stuff going on that people kind of frowned upon, whether it's what you hear about his dad, or I've been in situations, I've been in the gym with him, and the way he responded to something was not that of what a blue chip athlete should do, because you can see yourself being set up. But what I really want to get from this segment talking about this is let us see what we can learn from this. As a community, we can talk about it, but let's all say it with the idea of how we're going to wrap our arms around them. And the last thing I'll say, and shout out to my guy, Derek Coleman. I got on the phone with Derek. As soon as I called Derek, like, yeah, I know you calling me about Emoni. He made a good point, man. He said he's a kid that's making a mistake. Let's start with that. And I think that's important to remember because, Terry, as we know, man, when we see these kids rise up, we're quick to be like, man, we almost treat them like an adult all the way around. Chris posed a question. Do you think he'll play at all this year? Absolutely not. I don't think so. Nope. As of right now, because of the felony status, that forces Eastern. Eastern has removed him from practice and playing.
Yeah.
My thing is, Lindsay, is that it says a lot from the statement that Eastern put out. They're not rolling the public relations machine out to try to smooth this over and to try to help the situation. They have stepped way back from it. So,
yeah, and I think that's important to notice because it's like, the money is going to cost, the publicity, and Eastern has to ask itself, are we trying to be a flagship basketball school or we want to have other things going on? And then the other part of it is the fact that Eastern is in Ypsilanti, which is the community he's from. You don't know what the streets are saying. And one point I wanted to make about today's topics is that I didn't want to get too much into what the uncorroborated comments from the streets are saying, but those coaches got their ear to the ground. They know a whole lot that's going on, and who knows what else is happening. Chris also added, how much is a dad the problem? Not saying he isn't a good dad, but he was only coached by his pops before college. There was a big concern about Emoni's dad early on in the process about being too involved in those type of things. And I have to admit, someone that made a comment years ago to me that they were concerned about that. But the only thing you can say at this point, man, is we've seen success with dads coaching. We've seen the LeVar Balls of the world. And we know how these things can be. It just very well may be that between the place of where they're from, then I can't say that because a lot of people don't want to hear that. I'll put another name out there. That's a cautionary tale. And I'll leave with this for you guys to give me some feedback. Keith Appling.
Yeah.
Keith Appling. We see a great player that started down the road and you kept having these issues over and over again. And it got to be a tragedy. And unfortunately, Keith Appling is being held for the murder of a family member. And I don't know, man. Our community is funny, man. It's like we can talk about it, but we ain't supposed to really talk about them in that regard. But I think it's important that we use this platform to try to promote and elevate and say the best things possible about a situation. Hopefully we can make it through it. What do you guys think?
I agree with you. I think one thing, I'm glad Chris brought up that question. You judge the way you're doing things by like your fruit by it. So like what are you producing? What does it look like? What is your output? And I think, having his pops in his life and really speaking into him and being there for him, of course, we know that's a good thing. But we also know too how important it is to get other voices that may impact you on a different level to make you better. And so I think just seeing that constant chaos, him not being totally committed into it off the court issues, that may show that somebody else just may need to come in there and help Pops out. Because it's not like his dad is saying the wrong stuff. He just may need a little bit more help, which is okay. I mean, everyone has mentors like me. I've grown up with mentors like you all, but I still have my dad in my life. There are different ways that he can be approached and coached on. And it's not saying that his dad isn't doing it, but sometimes, it's okay to have more people. I'd rather have more people than less people. So I think he needs somebody in there just to help coach him, help give him in the right standing. Because right now it is a kid that made a mistake. I'm glad that, DC brought that up. I mean, it is a kid that made a mistake. But it's so hard because, he's held at this platform, which is why I'm glad Rod said too much too fast. Because he is a kid that's still growing. So you get all this fame, all these accolades, and everyone expects you to be perfect. You mess up once, and then everyone writes you off. That's why it's so important to have the right people, keep evaluating your circle, keep evaluating your mentors and your coaching, because that helps reduce the chances of a mistake.
And I like your point about, and I'm going to you, Orlando, about keep writing you off. The worry is that the more he moved from being that kid on Sports Illustrated's cover, the kid that says the next LeBron, how likely are people being willing to come help now? Now, everybody want to help you when you're on top. Oh, yeah, man, we got you. But now as it gets to this thing, because I'm telling you, man, whoever begins to associate themselves with them, you got to pull in the whole thing about violence. Is he safe to have around? They're going to scrutinize him and ask about, is it drug use? It's going to be all these things that probably would not have been a topic and could have just been considered, college kid stuff. When we talk about somebody being home, man, they got a weapon on it. Even with the weapon in this gun-orientated society we live in, the potential of having scratched off serial numbers, it's like, man, you the tallest dude in the crew and you trying to do some dirt, you know? What do you think?
And my thing is with him trying to say that it wasn't his gun, it wasn't his vehicle. Now, if it's a body or some dirt on that gun, do you honestly think if that is somebody else's gun, they're gonna step up and own it?
Right. That they may want to try.
But honestly, Terry is right. I mean, sometimes, and I learned actually through coaching, that there are times during the season where I would bring in a trainer or I'll bring in another voice to talk to my kids, because at some point, my voice over and over again is going to be ignored.
Yeah. So you need to have that other one.
Right. And, I'm not his dad, probably did the best that he can, but there comes a point where you need those other voices, because dad on them constantly. At some point, and I went through it, all you guys probably went through it. You just kind of, okay, he's saying it, I done heard that 1,000 times. I wish you leave me. You begin to ignore it. And that's when you bring in that other person to talk. And once you bring in that other perspective, they could be saying the same. They more times than not, they're saying the same thing, but they're just saying it in a different way, and it's a different voice.
Well, let's do this. We have our guest Leland Stein here. I'm gonna take him off mute. I removed him. That was my mistake. I messed up. He was ready to go too. That was totally on me and my fat fingers. But he's still here with us. Brother Stein, we want to welcome you in. Brother Stein, can you hear me okay?
I hear you excellently.
Hey, we're so happy to have you, man. You're a good-looking man. We can't see your face, though. We don't know if you need to hit the you may see something that says allow camera, and that'll bring you in.
We did all that. It says start cam. Even my daughter was down here. Maybe, this program might not work with my computer.
You know what? That could very well be the case. But look, we got you. We got you in the flesh. I appreciate you. I want to do a quick introduction to my guys that are here. We have Coach Orlando Watkins, who's been following you for some time. Your writings in the Michigan Chronicle, things like this. He's a real huge influencer in the AAU basketball world, with a leadership role here in Michigan. Also, coach over at Cody High School for the girls program. And we have who's been known as a college football savant, Mr. Terry McCord Jr., who knows his stuff. And Brother Stein, before I bring you all the way in, I just want to give you your roses publicly. I was telling my guys that in my entree to the sports world and having media credentials, I think that, and we'll probably talk about this now, a lot of people, particularly mainstream media and my white counterparts, weren't as receptive of me. I think for a number of reasons, whether because I was a new guy or even thinking that I may have had some extra advantage because of being an African-American and be able to make a cultural connection to a lot of these athletes, which I'm sure you're aware of. But I just want to tell you, man, when I went to the big house for the game and I met Leland Stein, that brother, you were so cool and so welcoming. And beyond it being a great experience being there, it just really was a form of validation because I had someone who can understand and relate to my experience, but was so helpful in bringing me in. So when I ran into you at the King cast game and we got to hang out a little bit, man, and you got to share with me about some of your work, I was so grateful to do that. And secondly, to better bring you on. So with no further ado, we want to welcome you to the SPS Edge Show and just want to hear your voice about the things you've been working on and what has it been like being pretty much the voice of the Black press as it relates to sports for the last several decades.
Wow, thank you. But it's been a weird journey because if you start out in the Black press like I did, you better have another job. not unless you run it, okay, or as the editor or in that capacity. So, that means I always had to I was an engineer first, and I was teaching school, and that allowed me to go out there and do that passion. Can I tell you know, when I first started, I started with the Black Voice News in Los Angeles.
What year is this? What era is this? So we
this
have an
was
idea.
about 86, 88, yeah, around 87, around in there. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
What was the tone? What was the tone when you started?
No.
The tone was. Well, the fact of the matter is, you know, it's never welcoming, right? I mean, you know, even the PR people weren't welcoming. I had to fight to get in USC. You know, nobody was welcoming. But there was a black journalist there named Brad Pye. He was part of those early black journalists that broke barriers in press boxes. He was the first in the Coliseum press box.
Broke barriers in press boxes. Now, we all know, but to our viewers, what does that mean to break a barrier in a press box?
Well, of course, just like most everything in America, it was pretty much white only. And, of course, the press boxes were. The media, you know, for a long, long time, maybe longer than after they desegregated the sports. The boxers still had a rougher time, you know, getting African American or minorities the access to be able to cover those events.
Wow.
But started at the Black Voice. When I first went in there, you go in there, it's the LA Times, the Register, all these big papers, and they always put you in a corner somewhere, right? And so, you know, you feel like, you know, I'm a competitor, man. You know, I want to compete, and, you know, and it make you want to compete. But what I found out, though, is that you were able, if you was really serious about your journalism craft and you wasn't going to just get access and do it just to be there, and if you really, really did it, I mean, really did it, go to the game, pick a story, do an interview, do the work, come back, write. Now, you got to work too now. So,
yeah.
You know, but if you show that commitment, we have more opportunities than I ever thought, you know, that were there. And maybe being in LA helped too, because obviously a lot of people were there then. You know, Wilt Chamberlain was there, was my frat brother. And it's many of them. Mayor Bradley was the guy with us that we helped. And it just goes on and on. But you had a lot of access. But what I found out is that when a conscious African-American men and women really wanted to tell a story, they didn't go to the LA Times. They didn't go to the Orange County Reddit. You know, they came to us, either Los Angeles Sentinel or the Black Voice. And they gave us access that was, at the time, I didn't even really know, but I really appreciate it now. I really understand it a lot better.
Brother Stein, I don't want to sound naive, but I like to just break these down. Why would they feel they couldn't tell a conscious story to a mainstream newspaper like the LA Times that has worldwide recognition?
And that's a good question. I could do it unfiltered. That's a gift and a blessing, especially for back in that day, because they weren't going to write it like that, and they couldn't. And you got to get past those gatekeepers, we call them, editors, you know. And even our editors, you know, if I ever came with something that was out, you either had to have it on a tape recorder or written in a book. You know, they want to challenge you, but no, that don't exist anymore, because anybody can just say anything at any time. So the getting to truth is a little bit more pragmatic in this era, you know, than it was then. When they wanted to come to truth, you had to go to the papers to get the voice out there. And of course, there was radio a little bit, but we didn't have no big access in radio like that back then. There was just little pockets in big cities. But
well, let me ask you a little bit more about access, because you shared with me a great story, and I want to make sure that it's available. Also, I want to shout out Coach Demetrius Ware. He said the legend Leland. I've known him since my OCC days. Oh yeah, we got the folks checking in. You had a great conversation with the late great Bill Russell, and you were, you know, nice enough to share with me the details of that. But can you talk about what that conversation was like and the impact it had on people that we know today as Shaq and the late Kobe Bryant?
Yeah, I'd love to share that story. When I was in LA and I was writing for the LA Sentinel then, Kobe was, I think about 96, can't remember, 95, somewhere along in there, was an 18-year-old little puppy come flying into LA, wide-eyed, and kind of happy. But they kind of ostracized him because he wasn't a party animal, and he spoke a lot of languages, and he was being more reflective. And he was that kind of guy. He just went like, I'm 18, I want to party. He was more concerned about his game and working out than any of the party. And so they kind of didn't really feel him, when he got there. So nobody talked to him in the locker room because, the other reporters didn't give a darn about him because he didn't do nothing his first couple of years. And we just sit and talk. And, I told him, I said, man, I'm working at Black Press. I got to go to work today. He said, what you do? At that time, I was an engineer. He said, you're an engineer? What? And from then on, we was like kind of as close as friends as you could be.
Well, does that speak to Kobe being an intellect and being able to appreciate that?
No doubt.
Sure.
No doubt. That's one of the reasons why Bill fell in love with him. Because he said when they first met, the first thing Kobe came up to him was like, hey, man, I read your books. And I want to ask you about this and that. And he said, that's our first conversation. And so when he found out that Kobe and Shaq was having this little spat through the press, it brought him back to him and Wilt. They didn't speak to each other for almost a year. And they were best friends now. And that was because, first of all, they was getting beat up. You ain't nothing. You score, but you can't do this. He do this. I mean, it was just a mess. And there was no buffer voice in there. No social media give another voice. So one of the reporters said something about Wilt. He got hurt in the championship game against the Lakers. And he hurt his knee and he couldn't play. And Bill was sitting somewhere off the record and they was just having fun. He said, ain't no way I'd have ever set out that game. Somehow they went and told somebody and they just started writing about it. Oh, Bill would have never set out. And Wilt just couldn't believe he would do that to him, sell him down the river. It hurt. But they had to sit down and talk about it. And Bill apologized and all that kind of stuff. But they were going, he saw Kobe and Shaq headed down that same road. And he took it upon himself to step in between them. And he called both of them. And he gave them, in other words, put on your big boy pants, sit down, talk to each other. You won 3 titles together. You obviously did something right. Stop arguing in the press and sit down and do what y'all got to do individually. Period.
And he's probably the only person that had that sway that can say something to those big personalities. And I just want to go back to something real quick, Brother Stein.
Okay.
When you talked about sitting down with Kobe, and can you help paint a picture for our listeners when you talk about sitting down with someone, even though he's not the Kobe Bryant we have come to know now? Talk about your ability as an African-American, let's just say as a cool brother, however you want to put it, that you can sit down and make that connection that probably many of your counterparts just won't be able to do it as natural as that, to kind of just go from there. Can you develop that a little bit more for those who may not get that part?
Yeah, I think you get an inerrant trust by working for the Black Press. And we may don't know that because the Black Press don't have the clout and the money to have big-time reporters like yourselves just work for them full time. So, that, it's missing. And we can't really access it. But I think the athletes know, though. If you come correct, they can tell whether you're trying to get them or not. Look, first of all, we got enough bad news. We're weekly. Why would I write about the bad stuff when I could write about Brandon Graham or Chris Webber? I don't know, something. Somebody got out of their situation and to uplift themselves, even if they ain't a superstar, if they did nothing more than go to University of Iowa and got a scholarship and playing. Those are the kind of stories we, endeavored to tell. At least I did. And I think they saw that and they realized that, hey, the stories you're telling is okay, And then after that, it's just kind of went on. Jim Brown invited me to his home.
Jim Brown?
I saw Jim coming through the tunnel at the Coliseum. We was at the USC game, and he was coming up through the tunnel. And I gotta tell you, look, I love Jim. I was a football player. I mean, he was my idol. But you know, I was cool as a cucumber though. But inside,
you played it cool. You played it cool, brother Stein.
I was cool. Now come on, I had to keep my journalism hat on.
Yeah.
But I was like, look, man, I want to interview you, bro. I really do. And he's like, oh heck, he was writing with the Los Angeles Sentinel. He knew.
He knew.
He said, look, here's my number. Call me. And I'm gonna have a little something at the house in a week or two. Come on up.
Wow. So let me ask you this, Brother Stein. I took a note of this. You said that the black press at that time was known for not having the money and clout. So what would you quantify that they did have if it wasn't money and clout?
Okay, I take that back in the word clout. By clout, I'm just equating that to mass numbers and money, which equate to advertising dollars and all of that kind of stuff. So that, but not clout in the sense of telling stories. When I asked Jim, I said, Jim, he said, look, just sit around, enjoy yourself. When I get ready, I'll call you back. He called me back to his office. And I'm asking him, man, you know, why'd you bring me out here? You know, like that. He said, we got to tell our own stories. And that's kind of stuck with me forever. We got to tell our own stories, man. I know you write for the black press. I'm going to give you this story, you know, and he did that. And a lot of those men back then did that. Bill Russell kind of did that with me. And John Thompson, a number of the black men of that era.
Even though you were writing for the black press, did you ever get any kind of negative feedback, even though you didn't have a lot of white counterparts because you were with the black press? Did anything come back negative because of those relationships?
Well, some of the other brothers in the black press, they're like, why he out here all the time? What is he doing? There was only a few of them. But for the most part, men like Bill Rhoden and Michael Wilburn and Burwell and them kind of took me in when I started popping up at the Super Bowls and the Final Fours and stuff like that. They
what you tell them? I'm everywhere. You ain't never there. So being on the scene, huh?
Well, I was writing, and I had some men helping me get there. You know, John Thompson was one of those when it came to the Final Four. So, and once in, then I went there and I worked. I mean, I wrote stories and actually created things that were a little different than what our counterparts were doing. You know,
so
like my Brandon Graham story this week.
Yeah,
it's
we're going to talk about
different than anything you're going to ever see in the news or free press. I guarantee you that. I don't have to write like they write.
We're going to make sure we talk about that. We had a few people that had some questions, and if I'll go to one of them, and if Orlando or Terry has anything, want to add that too. Really quickly, right when you were coming on, we were dealing with the Emoni Bates situation. First of all, Kenny said had Emoni stayed with Penny, he would have been good away from home. But then he said, ask Leland Stein, what's your thoughts on the whole Emoni Bates thing? I know that's a big story, but just want to get your take on that. I know. We start with something hot for you.
It could have worked out. Everybody say his dad's in his life, and it didn't work. But I've seen it teaching school. I've seen a lot of men with no dads in their life, and that didn't work neither. So I don't want to go too far and just blame the dad for trying to be in his life. But then there's some boundaries. And Coach Watkins knows better than I do. He's coaching what those boundaries are. And if the dad was the dad the head coach in high school?
The dad was the AAU coach, and then he gave him to his close friend who was the head coach, and the dad was an assistant or on the staff. So that's like me bringing my daughter to Coach Watkins or Coach McCord and me being on staff, if you will. But he definitely was there, definitely was an influential person, part of the process.
Well, look, this gun was I want to believe it because they say he borrowed somebody's car and the gun was in there. Now, it's possible, but then it still make you look like a knucklehead, though, no matter if it's right or wrong. It's just bad. You can't sugarcoat it and make it pretty. You know,
Well,
you just can't.
Well, let me and I'll queue up Orlando and Terry if they got a question. Let me make you put your black press back hat on. It's one thing because it is a story. It is newsworthy. It's a sports story, and I'm not even making it about sensationalism. How do you consciously, as a writer for the black press or Black America, try to tell the story factually, but also either not sell a kid up a river or not be quote unquote sappy and gullible saying he didn't do anything wrong? How do you find your voice when you're dealing with an issue like this?
Hey, if he's wrong, he's wrong. I ain't afraid to say that now. Okay. I'm just not looking for wrong, searching for it.
Mm.
I don't want to tell them if they smoke a cigar or whatever they're doing or getting a drink and having fun. That's the kind of thing that I shy away from. But if you're wrong, you're wrong. And I've never been afraid to speak on it. But when you only publish once a week, I'm gonna find some good news, brother. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I know in this world y'all got going right now, it's just you just got to go out there and just go for the jugular everywhere.
Yeah. And I'm going to let Orlando pose a question you have, but one more question. Have you ever had, when you took the route that, okay, if you're wrong, that you got some retribution, you got a tap on your shoulder, you got a message, you got somebody saying, hey, man, what happened, especially with these relationships that you've cultivated over the years?
Yeah. I think you got to have some consequences for your actions. So, I mean, I expect that. I think it's worse when you don't have none. Now, unfortunately, if you get the wrong judges, like it sounded like this judge, this guy's got, he's like, well, the law is the law. Oh, okay. He got one of them. That ain't necessarily good, neither, like they did my boy from Cass Tech. I can't think of his name.
J. Rue Campbell. We were just with him.
Mean, they overdid it, man. I mean, it was just ridiculous what they was trying to do to it,
Yeah, we had a chance to talk to him.
We're not supposed to destroy people, are we? Not at 18 and 19 and 20, I don't.
But, America loves an apology. I tell you that, they love that.
Yeah.
Orlando, you got a question for Brother Stein, just in general?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. First off, I want to say thank you for covering our stories and for joining us today. Now, my question for you is, what do you think is the issue? And I'm going to go right to the Detroit public school system. Why isn't the Detroit public schools sports getting the coverage that it deserves? Out in Oakland County and the other counties, it's front and center in the paper. The parents can read about their kids. There's interesting story. Detroit public schools has plenty of stories to tell, and I'm going to be quite honest. It's the Chronicle, the black press that's giving us the most press about the Detroit public schools.
Yeah. It's been that way forever. But I used to look at it, I said, I don't care, I'll step in there and do it. Until Sam Logan passed, we did a good job for about 13, 14 years.
Shout out to the late Sam Logan, former editor and publisher of the Michigan Chronicle. But
you're right. The public schools, it's such a complex problem. I mean, they've underfunded us for decades. I mean, it's just so many issues going on with the schools are old. They're old as dog doo-doo. Okay, they're old. We always get the last of everybody's leavings, They was here in the 1920s and 30s, and they was grand and beautiful, and then they old. But they built a few new ones now. They've done better in recent years. But now with the boundaries of sports changing, kids can go anywhere. They siphon them off. They out in Belleville and Oak Park, everywhere. They're just everywhere. So I don't know if we'll ever. PSL's not going to get there again. I don't see it.
That's fair to say.
I know it's terrible.
Well, it would take a complete reinvestment of everybody coming back to the city.
You got to come back.
In the Catholic League, they poach the best, and they'll bring them out, whether they are from scholarships.
They've been poaching the best forever. That's nothing new there. Even way back when we was coming up, they would always get some outstanding young African-American athletes, men and female. Mm-hmm. So, but I don't blame them for thinking they're getting a better chance neither. I don't blame anybody for their choices. But, Coach, what you think? What are we going to do? You right there.
I'm right there. I mean, we're doing the best that we can, but my issue.
What do you need? What do we need better?
We need the resources. We need a better middle school sports program, elementary school sports program.
That was
because they're non-existent at this
feeder
point.
programs.
Right.
Yep.
Right. You
That's
go to
great.
suburbs, the middle schools play football.
They're in the same
They're
place.
playing the same system.
Yeah.
Same place since third grade.
Yeah, they're playing the same system.
Yeah,
Terry, what do you have for our brother Stein?
My question would be, what is your most memorable article that you covered, or like your most memorable like conversation? I know I had to go
You
listen.
rub his head now.
Huh? You got to remember, I'm old now. I'm 67.
No, you experienced, man. You ain't old. You experienced.
Woo! Can we break it down to a sport? Like
I would do
or college or pro or something.
Let's go. NBA.
Ooh, shoot, NBA. Probably, it's obviously coming home. I moved back to Detroit in 2001 because I was in Los Angeles about 27 years, and the Pistons. I was covering the Pistons for the Chronicle, and the Pistons go to the championship. But who do they play? Kobe and Shaq.
Your boys.
They was freaking out when we came back here for those days. We were all kind of. Kobe did something really nice during that weekend too. We was coming up the tunnel. He asked about the kids. Now, I ain't gonna say I went over his home and hung out like that. I didn't do all that type of hanging. We did it in the context that we could do it. Okay, so I wasn't trying to reach for more than that from him anyway. But he took the phone. He said, "How your kids doing?" I said, "Well, my youngest and the other two in college, and youngest one, he in school here." He said, "Call it." I called him. And he's at Cass Tech then. And he had his boys over there. Kobe gave me the phone back. He said, "Man, look, they don't believe it's me. He ain't gonna listen." They didn't believe it. Man, I was like, "Hey, dude, this for real. I'm down here in the tunnel. They're gonna be getting on the bus. You better straighten up." Then they went to yelling and screaming. So I don't know how much talking they got in there. But he did that. He did. He just said, "Call them." But the Lakers played the Pistons, and the Pistons beat them at home. Woo! Boy, that was good. I love basketball, by the way. I can't help it. I grew up in St. Cecilia.
I'm gonna do an NBA question.
Oh yeah, I grew up in St. Cecilia. But the real memorable event though was the NBA 50th anniversary celebration. And Wilt, everybody was still alive. Everybody came, all 50, but Shaq was hurt. And Pete Maravich might have passed. And I think everybody else might have been there almost. Everybody. Might have been one more. But, wow. Sam Jones and Oscar, all those guys, they gave us just access to everybody just like that. And it was really, really cool, And then especially now they did the 75th. So I really get to see how important that was, and I was just blessed. It was one of the better things I've done. I liked it.
Brother Stein, we got two more queued up for you. This one is from this lovely lady, is my mother, Patricia England, and she did her own research on you, and she's wondering if you got a boxing connection with your dad, Leland Stein II, and she posed a question: did you cover Hitman Tommy Hearns or the Kronks team?
Yes. As a matter of fact, Emmanuel lived right around the corner from me here in Detroit.
Referring to Emmanuel Stewart, his longtime trainer.
Yeah, we used to walk our dogs together and all that stuff. But when Kronk was at his heyday, I was in California. But you really want to hear this? You want me to tell you?
Yeah, man, we want to hear it. That's what we're here for.
Here it goes. When I was in California, and I had broken through with John Thompson, and they had me do some special things, and I was writing and interviewing Jim Brown and interviewed Charlie Sifford. They got me to do all these old black guys, legends. And I guess Don King he was getting tired of the press beating him up so bad, and he was an admirer of the black press. So he sent some people out there to find 4 brothers that work for the black press, and then we just got calls, and he like, you want to come to Monterrey, Mexico, for the fight? You know, we said, yeah. I mean, I didn't know. It was just me. When I get there, it was Howie Evans, who was with the New York Amsterdam News. Of course, is the most legendary black paper in the country. The other brother was at the Chicago Defender. And then there was Collie Nicholson, who was the sports information director at Grambling. He's the one that made Eddie Robinson, because he had the vision to take Grambling to all these big stadiums. And Eddie was just along for the ride, but it was Collie that had the vision and went out there and executed his vision and got Grambling to do that. But he put all 4 together and said, I don't care what y'all do. And we sitting in Mexico somewhere at a restaurant, and he's like, just write what you see. That's it. I ain't gonna ask you to do nothing. And for the next 10 years, we covered every fight everywhere, all over.
Oh, you was rolling to the fights like that?
Wow. They paid for everything. Don did.
Wow.
That's
awesome.
awesome. Crazy.
That's awesome. I got another question for you queued up from Hoopballer Scoop, one of our huge supporters here. He says, Mr. Stein, have you ever met the GOAT, Michael Jordan, or had any interaction with him?
Yeah, I've seen him, but by the time I was getting going, he was leaving a little bit. And I never did quite take to Michael like that anyway, as like loving him so much. First of all, he's playing against my Pistons, so that's reason enough not to like him.
From Detroit.
Right.
But Mike wasn't that guy who was. I was around people that was trying to affect change, and he just wasn't in that sphere.
So you needed LeBron at the time. You didn't need Mike.
Oh,
I can only imagine.
Right.
Well, LeBron, he's been good. Proud of him. Mm-hmm. But you know, I got to interview Tommy Smith and Carlos separately for Olympic magazine.
The Olympians that went through
so they give me those kind of interviews, you know.
So you was known as that guy.
I guess so.
We want to keep you with us. We got a few more topics we want to roll through. You can stick around. So you good with us for a minute?
Yeah.
All right, absolutely good. Another big topic, man, everybody's been talking about is what's going on with the Boston Celtics. I mean, this is one of those, we got all the tea, but because this is sports and we're talking about a team that was just in the finals right now, but now it's been breaking news that head coach Ime Udoka may be taking either at least the season off or even some rumblings about him actually resigning. I don't know how accurate that is. And we're at this point right now where we got to figure out what's going to happen with that. So with that being said, I just also want to say that many people have said, as they talk about this love triangle between Nia Long and what's coming to be at least 2 more individuals who are staffers, I got to give some clarity. I misrepresented some information earlier this morning. Allison Feaster, who's on the staff, the assumption was that she was the woman in question, but reports, including our great Orlando Watkins, have surfaced to show that's not. I even got a call from the NBA. I got a call from one of my guys in the NBA to clarify that. But basically, we're talking about Nia Long and Ime are separated, but the big issue is this fraternizing in public. It's fraternizing with members of the staff. So, Leland, brother, I'll start with you on that. Mm-hmm. We know that things happen, affairs and relationships, but why do you think this is so unique? And is it fair to say there's some conspiratorial aspect to talk about this more than we're talking about Brett Favre and his siphoning of $5 million of welfare fund?
Ooh, the young man, from what I read, it said it was consensual. So what is the problem? Well,
the problem may be that
not unless it's somebody's wife, it is consensual.
Well, yeah, an executive they supposedly said they went to him before and said, "Hey, can you stop?" And he wouldn't stop. So he's steady having this relationship, consensual or not, with the VP wife. You know.
You know that it's the VP's wife.
Oh yeah.
The statement has been known.
and then they came out with it.
Yeah, the reports have been that it's the VP's wife, and he's steady been having a relationship. And my question is Brad Stevenson trying to work his way back down to coaching this team because they finally made more progress without him being there? So, to your point, we hear about scandals all the time, but why is this making so much news? Is it because is it going to die out?
Well, if it's my man's wife, his boss's wife, come on.
Here's his name right here. He's accused of having affairs, that's multiple, plural, with 2 married Celtic staffers, one being Kathleen Nemo Lynch, the wife of the VP of Finance.
Who said that? Where'd you get
this
that
is
from?
reported by the Robert Littell in Black Online News, I want to say.
You got to watch him a little bit.
Okay, that's fair. That's
I
fair.
don't know. Did you see it anywhere else? Anywhere.
That's the second thing. We want to confirm that we have multiple sources saying it.
Because remember, when it first came out, they didn't want to disclose what it was. They were like for breaking some organizational rules. That was the first report. That was what Shams and even Woes dropped that one. So they didn't want to say what it was, but all the lower tier ones started coming out about saying that he was having affairs and cheating on his girl.
Well, if he was doing that, then he's going to have to go, isn't he?
Well, it's reported right now by Boston.com. This was reported an hour ago by Tom Westerholm that he is not going to resign. He's going to wait for the decision for the suspension.
Yeah.
Well, look, if it was, as you mentioned, McCord, it was more than one, then he don't have a leg to stand on. But if it was just one, I mean, sometimes people just add. He wasn't doing this by himself, okay? So something's going on. This might be some energy that we don't understand, obviously, that happens between people sometimes. You know, it just does. I ain't saying it's good or right.
And the other sub story is his beautiful, estranged, partner, Nia Long. Ron Charles, one of our great followers, said, Nia Long is fine chick and we love her, but fine chicks get cheated on all the time. But we don't know how she is at home. Ding, 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 the Halle Berry syndrome. But think about it, around these women all the time and stuff happens. Yeah. Who Bought a Scoop comes on and says, should he be fired to y'all? And then Rod Wilson, or Mr. Wilson, if you know him well, says a 1-year suspension, fired if the interim can do the job. I mean, at the end of the day, how much will we even be talking about this if the Boston Celtics were the NBA champions from last season?
Yeah. If
I think so.
Somebody's wife, they're high up. Come on, man.
Yeah.
You can't. I mean, that's like your boss wife. I mean, come on. Where do you stop? You got to have some boundaries, right, Coach?
Yeah.
You got to. But hold on, Lindsay. To bring it back up, the important part, and we talked about this earlier. For me, it was Nia Long. So I'm going to help you, Lindsay. I'm going to help you out, Lindsay. So right now, we are live. We're on the internet. And Nia, if you're listening, Lindsay said he has a shoulder for you to cry on.
I do. And to be honest, you know what? Little known secret, Nia Long has some Detroit ties. Some of my great friends, shout out to my guy Alton Gunn, all my Third Eye brothers, they all would come up together and she would come visit regularly on the summer. So she knows about Detroit. And baby, we welcome you back. We got nothing but love for you. She's beautiful and all that, but boy, it must be a story of a time. My mom said
those kind of relationships don't work too good. They tough as it is. He's in Boston with basketball 24/7. She's out there trying to make a movie or two. It's hard.
And I also pose this question too. When he got the coaching job and they kind of rolled him out to the media and whatnot, I think she added to his credibility because she was a well-known name, well-liked. But although they weren't married, but she was known for being his partner. But they have a child and they've been engaged for almost 10 years.
Yeah, that makes me think, what is she doing on the side too? Because I mean, you don't. I mean, both sides. You're not engaged. Engaged ain't long term. So I'm like, if he's doing this while he's engaged, his stuff got brought to the light. Is she doing something in the dark right now that hasn't been brought to the light too? Because I mean, you like I said, you aren't engaged for no longer than maybe a year or two.
So look at Ron. Ron said Nia Long isn't married to him, but why do we feel because she Nia that it's not possible? Very good. He also says they always apart and he around other women. Things happen. Yeah.
She around other men too. Come on, they be on sets with all kinds of fine brothers. Come on.
It's no telling. It's
Just
no
like he
telling.
around fine women. Come on.
Look how many actors and actors that got together from being on sets together.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt and Angelina got together like that.
Yeah, he said Nia need to go too. BMS, that's Hoop Ball the Scoop. Well, we're going to keep an eye on that. We're going to keep moving. Now, with that being said, on the flip side, let's talk about a celebration for the ages with the Las Vegas Aces. Brother Stein, did you ever think you would be witnessing women's basketball on the highest level, the celebratory aspects? And I think these three young ladies right here have kind of told the whole story. Kelsey Plum, Aja Wilson, and Chelsea Gray.
Ooh, that's right.
Chelsea Gray being the big sister or the mama telling Aja Wilson stop drinking at the press conference. Chelsea Gray, Aja was lit. Aja was lit. Look at her. That's the story right there. He was like, huh? Chelsea said, come on now, chill out. Aja was too lit. She was like, there you go.
Commentary.
There you go. But then Chelsea Gray comes through, Plum comes through with the cover Girl Aficionado. They loving her. She got a nice stick for you, Brother Stein.
Yeah.
She posing for you and everything. She a real smoker, man. And of course, that was the experience. So talk about WNBA is seeing it from its inception, it being something that's at this point, and where do you think it's going? Brittany Griner issues and all.
Oh my goodness. Personally, I've always liked women's basketball. I think the gatekeepers is what we call them, the editors of the mainstream white papers. They refuse to do anything more basketball, football, and baseball.
We're not creating no more space for anything else.
Nothing. We'll give you the Masters once a year and the U.S. Open and la-di-da, Wimbledon, a few little shot butt things. But track and field, all these great sports, they just won't go past where they are for some reason, and it's mind-boggling. But the women's, the WNBA, our first team out L.A., we was there at the first game. It was at the Forum back then.
The Forum
Club. But so we had got Lisa Leslie, and they had a good team. But they couldn't beat Houston back then.
Yeah, they had some vets on that team.
Yeah, but I always loved the women's sport. And then when we get back here to Detroit, our Shock win 3 championships, man.
That's right. Swin Cash and Company.
And the most memorable one, Coach Watkins, was that one when they got kicked out of the Palace and they played at the Joe Louis.
That's right.
In that game
what was that for? Why did that happen?
Well, a scheduling conflict, and they didn't think the girls was going to go that far.
Wow.
And they didn't look that far in advance for the girls' basketball. Maybe they did it about 8 months in advance. And here they are getting ready to win a championship. And it was booked for something.
Wow.
And they played at the Joe Louis Arena. Had 19,000 in there.
Wow.
It was loud.
It was
there.
Rocking, boy. I was there.
You were at that.
Was rocking, boy.
It was rocking.
Oh, that's awesome. That's what we seeing with that. Hoop Baller Scoop told Terry not to hate Terry. Why they give Chelsea Gray that little as MVP trophy? What you want to say about that, Terry?
Yeah, because I mean, I see what they try to do because even the trophy, the Larry O'Brien trophy in the NBA, that the Finals MVP is like a mini version of that. But man, they do need a trophy upgrade because even that Commissioner's Cup was not looking too hot. But
that championship trophy was.
They got to get some upgrades.
Yeah, they get called on it. They definitely get called on it. Yeah, this is us all the time, Brother Stein. This is what we're dealing with. We're gonna keep moving through, man. We got a few more things we definitely want to get your take on as we wrap up. Just to give you a heads up, we're gonna talk about Deion Sanders and a whisper. I don't know if it's a loud whisper of him potentially going to Arizona State or what his next move may be. We're going to talk about Cap taking the knee, but Brett Favre taking the millions. And then finally, we'll finish up with the article that you have out that I'll make sure I share. And we'll also talk about the city that birthed the most NFL players. So with that being said, there's this whisper, whenever there's okay, before we go, I want to go to my guy, Rod Wills. He said, Mr. Leland mentioned the Forum Club. Did he ever hang with Dr. Buzz, LOL? The legacy of the Lakers. On Hulu, like we talked about on Hulu.
Look, I don't know. It's just lucky. When I got to LA, even before I started writing, I was coaching at Magic Johnson's basketball camp in the summer. And I was the only coach there that didn't coach for a living. All the other guys was coaches, but from there I met it just the Lakers was just it was there. I was right in there. And Magic was on top of the world. And the Forum Club, Dr. Busk, he said it was okay for me to come in there. I used to just walk in there.
You said you was good at the Forum Club, huh?
I used to be so happy. Every time I walk in there, I was like, yes! Because I was always waiting for them to kick me out, right?
Waiting for that moment.
I was waiting for them to say, no, you can't come in here.
And it never happened?
No, I just kept walking. First you get your courage up, put your chest out.
So you act like you're supposed to be there.
Act like you're supposed to be there. Now, you don't want to wait for Norm Nixon and those guys to come, And sometimes they found a back way to come in anyway to avoid everybody trying to help them to get them in.
Was your response from all those guys the same, from Kobe to Bill Russell to all these guys you seem to be naming? They seem to be receptive to you just because. Was that pretty much the overall response from these guys during this era?
Yeah, it was. Look, I wasn't trying to get nothing. I don't want nothing from you. I'm just telling stories. If I saw you out there, we just shake hands, say hello, those kind of things. I wasn't trying to get them. So.
And we talked about this when we were at the King Cast game. We kind of talked about it earlier too. What is it about your swagger that allows you to present like that, where you don't seem like you're this guy that's waiting for a gotcha moment? Is that Detroit swag? Is that bi-coastal, East Coast, West Coast, Midwest? I mean, what is it, man?
I don't know. I think I have some great mentors, man. West Side Cubs, man. We got Hall of Famers in there. Coach Ron Thompson. You ever heard of him, Lindsay?
No, I'm
not familiar with that. Okay.
Oh yeah,
Coach Walt know him. Yeah, but then St. Cecilia. My dad, Ron Thompson, and all them guys went over there and started that thing. I don't know. They put something in us, that just made you feel like you should be there. Yeah.
And it must have carried, because you got to think about all those characters, the Don Kings of the world, and all these guys they come in contact with. They can scrutinize somebody quick, and they find you not being wanting. Right, Coach Demetrius Ware says, wow, to the story. Chris has a great question for you before we move on. He said, before y'all move on, who's the best NBA player of all time to you, Brother Stein?
Woo!
Wow, good question, Chris.
If you look at the stats, it's got to be Wilt.
Now, why you lead with the stats part? That's the data. Hold on.
Because it's real. My first degree is engineering, man. Science is real. 2 + 2 will always equal 4. That's why you got to like it. You can lie and cheat, but it ain't gonna change.
They don't even talk about Bill Russell or Kareem.
Well, I ain't finished now.
Okay.
You just dogged me on Wilt. They just showed this. Wilt had 286 40-20 games.
Say that again.
40-20 rebounds. 40-20.
40-20.
And the next closest person got like 25. I think it was like Terry making the plumber argument. Like that.
Terry said they was playing against plumbers and carpenters back then.
I don't care if you was playing against the Sisters of Mercy.
you gotta admit
it. First
of all, even if the Sisters of Mercy hike their dresses up, it don't matter.
Wilt was a high jump champion, man. Wilt could high jump. He ran like a 51-40 a 40-yard dash. He was an unusual big man. He was really an athlete.
Yeah.
He was an athlete, man.
Play volleyball.
Yeah, he was a real athlete. That's why he got involved with track. He used to have the Wilt Track Club, and he was one of the big sponsors of volleyball out there on the West Coast when it first started, beach volleyball.
Yeah.
And, Wilt was involved with that, all that stuff.
So why do you think Bill Russell's name rang out more? Was it more so his off-the-court activism?
Well, you could give him credit for that. I mean, because he is the man. To me, those guys stand out more than anybody. Him, Ali. I mean, you got to give him credit to stand.
Why do they stand out to you, Brother Stein?
Because America was segregated and racist. And they dogged some people out, baby. I'm reading Charlie Siffer's book right now. I'm just finishing it. It's called Just Let Me Play.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, Charlie was the first black golfer to get a PGA Tour card.
Oh, wow.
If you don't know Mr. McCord, you better look that man up.
I'm putting in my book list
we
right
don't have
now.
we don't have no connected history, and it just breaks my heart. You know, because if we don't go out and read and search it for ourselves, it just goes away. All our great people and all the things they've done just dissipates. So
especially with technology now and social media, you can think somebody's highlight reel makes them the best player ever compared to doing that. Shout out to Chris again. Chris said Wilt game would translate in today's game in his prime, and he also says, but Bill Russell won more.
Oh, he won more. Woo! If you want to go the greatest winner, why can't we break it out? He's the greatest winner in sports.
They never use that term though. It's always considered. It's always to go. So wait a minute. Let's move up. Let's talk about the current debate. Who's the GOAT? The current GOAT. We talk about MJ and LeBron.
It's Wilt, Oscar. We got to stop it with those guys. Jesus Christ!
If you would have said Michael Jordan, I'd have been like,
50 points a game for a whole season. I don't care if you was playing with some nuns. That's impossible.
My mom says rings matter. My mom say rings matter.
Well, they never had the teams he had. Russell's teams got at least 8 Hall of Famers in there.
Yeah.
Seriously now, come on, stop it.
It remains to be said. Well, let's do this. Let's move on. We're going to put a pin in that one because that's going to have everybody up. But I'm glad that you and Terry, Jedi Knight and Yoda are coming together on this with that. Let me see. Let's just talk football. And lastly, Chris did have one more thing. He said, why do we skip Kobe Bryant in these debates? It's crazy. I know why do we skip your boy Kobe in these debates, Leland?
Well, him and Michael was the same. Yeah. Michael done won one more title, so how can you put him over him?
Oh, at the end, he's a duplicate. Chris, you hear that? He say, hey, straight up, I'm going to repeat that fact.
Well, but he's better. You know what I like about him? He was becoming the next Bill Russell, which like Bill became like an oracle or savant for the basketball players around the league. Anybody could come talk to Bill about things, or he would check them, and they all kind of looked up to him. Everybody kind of looked up to Bill. As a matter of fact, Kobe and Shaq, when I went and asked them, when Bill told me that, he told them to straighten up, because Kobe had mentioned it. I didn't want to ask that in front of a bunch of reporters. I didn't want, you know what I mean? So I caught Bill on the side. I didn't want to make it like today, it would be a hot topic. You just throw it out there. Hey, guess what? But no. But Kobe, oh, Lord. What the hell?
Bill or Shaq?
Yeah. Then I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit.
No, but you were talking about how you pulled him to the side, and I was going to ask you if you think that really played into your persona of how you were well respected and received, because your instinct told you, hey, let me walk off to the side with this brother and talk to him. I don't want to talk to him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've been seeing Bill around for about 15 years around the NBA, so I felt confident that he might walk off to the side with me.
Well, you know what? Let me add. You've been seeing him around, but guess what? He's been seeing you around too. Come on now. He's been seeing you around.
I never asked for much, But when I needed quotes and good stories, they'd always come through for me.
That's awesome. Chris also says, and Chris, we appreciate all your questions too. You got some great questions. He said his pop said Bill Russell didn't sign autograph. We knew that to be the case.
No, he didn't.
That was his ongoing protest?
Kind of, because what happened to him in Boston, they broke in his home, man.
And then they defecated in his bed?
Yeah, and they broke all his trophies. And they never drew as much as the Boston Bruins. And they weren't as loved as much. I mean, it is what it is. I wish it wasn't so, but it is.
Winning all them championships for you, and then your own home, your own city, get treated like that.
Yeah. It was a rougher go there in Boston for him.
But now, have they erected, or are they committed to erecting a statue for him? Has that statue been erected yet? Or are they talking about that?
I haven't heard it.
Is that sweet justice at the end of the day, as he's transitioned, that he gets something in the center of the city to represent him, or is it like not telling the whole story?
Sweet justice. He deserves it. Well, yeah, Kobe was headed there because the young boys like Jason and the kid with New Jersey played with LeBron.
Oh, Kyrie.
Yeah, all of them were kind of reaching out to him for advice.
They reached out to Kobe.
Yeah. All the young guys around the league were. And he was kind of giving them good advice about what it took to get better every year and all those kind of things. And, and he was headed that way. And it's just kind
Which
of
is why those guys were so devastated at his passing.
Oh, no doubt.
That's it, we're gonna keep it going, man. We're doing great, man. We're great to have you, man. The next topic is Deion Sanders and these whispers. Herm Edwards was unceremoniously let go basically at the game on the field. My goodness, man. They were standing right there when he walked off the field against Eastern, say, you got to go, partner. And the name Deion Sanders come up, whether I believe that to be true or not. What do you see? Let's just talk about what this phenomenon of Deion Sanders as, and be honest with us. When he first said he was coming on board, did you think he was going to have an impact, and where do you see him going in the future?
I'm so glad he did it. We years and years ago, we was fighting to try to get some of these boys to go back to HBCUs. Mm-hmm. But the NCAA and TV money is just so intoxicating that none of them, we just sold out. And so the HBCUs was just done. Because, they give them one berth and one of this and one of that. And it's ridiculous. But Deion going back has been a good start. I don't think him going to Arizona State, his act won't play as well there.
No.
What do you mean when you say that? What do you mean when you say that?
Oh, because he's got the black swag, man, and he ain't afraid to bring it there, and they ain't embracing it. But if he go to Arizona State, all his immediate boss is going to be white. That's just the bottom line.
Break it down, Brother Stein. Break it down.
They're going to come at him differently, completely differently. And he's good where he is. If he was smart, he'd stay where he is. I would not take my good name, the things I built, and try to do what we've always do. We leave our environment, run to where our white brothers and sisters is, thinking that our lives going to be better. I don't necessarily think that's would be the case for him if he did that.
Let me ask you a question, Brother Stein, while we on that. And, man, I can't tell you, I can't wait to just play this back and just listen to it and keep picking up the nuggets. Do you consider yourself a quote-unquote revolutionary? Do you consider yourself a black activist? Do you consider yourself a nationalist? I mean, because you have chosen a profession that allows you to continue to stay at the forefront of issues in Black America and sports. So is that a reflection of who you are?
Woo! When Bill
I owe
said,
you a drink after this. I owe you a drink after this. It's on me.
I'm a chicken. When Medgar Everett's brother called Bill Russell to come to Jackson, Mississippi, and try to set up a integrated basketball camp, if they just killed his brother, and Bill flew down there in the mouth of the dragon and the lion, I'm not sure if I could do it.
You wouldn't go for no coverage? You said, I need some coverage. Come on down here.
That might be different. I don't know. Even then, I don't even know if they let me in, Because as soon as Bill got off the plane, the white reporters was there saying, why you think you're going to come down here and integrate these courts? They asked the question. You know what Bill always do it concisely? He says, look, my kids play with white kids all the time. Ain't nobody got hurt yet. He turned around and left. They told him, why you think you can have white kids, black kids play together in Jackson, Mississippi? But hey, I think I'm better presenting the information than being the one going out there and doing it. Yeah. Not to say I'm a chicken. I ain't no chicken, but I just know where God put me.
Knowing how fraternities are, you remember Kappa Alpha Psi, or as Eric Bates said, you a newt. I'm proud of Alpha Psi Alpha.
I know that.
I know. I do know your sans, Daryl Buchanan, and I've sat down with Daryl, and we've had one of the best interviews as it relates to talking about history. So even your friends, your line brothers, all seem to be this. How can I call you guys? These conscious corporate guys on the front end.
Well, we come to an era up at Michigan State when they couldn't get on the black radio, or the white newspapers. We wasn't getting internships, couldn't get into panic little consoles. So we had to fight for all that stuff.
And seeing all that stuff you talking about for
You
me,
see,
Gary and
everybody takes
others,
for granted.
that's standard for us. Panhandle. If people don't know, Panhandle is
Right.
you're being involved in all the other white fraternities and sororities. But man, you talking about coming in the era where you couldn't even you had second-class citizenship on campus?
No, that's a trip, man. It's not. It's how it was. So I think we stayed connected. We almost was like a black college back then because we had. They said we had about 3,800 students, which was as big as many black colleges. And so you didn't walk by an African American male or woman, at least didn't wave or something, unless y'all was mad.
Hey man, hey, repeat that part again, because that breaks my heart to this day.
Yeah, because my niece went there 20, 30 years later, and she said, Uncle Leland, man, nobody speak to each other. Well, all of us, most of African Americans, at least a large portion that succeeded and became professional, Orlando knows that, and Terry's getting there. We ran to the suburbs. That was our thing of success. And we left this big old city and left it, all its breasts and brightest minds disappeared. And that's what we have, and that's what you get. But I don't know, man. I wouldn't do it.
Let me ask you this: in the press, do you see those who are worthy of passing the torch on to? Do you see people willing to have these uncomfortable conversations? Do you see a new generation, male or female? Because I would imagine that it probably wasn't a lot of African American women in the press.
Right.
Do you see a transitionary bridge going forward with some of these names in the media?
Yeah, I think the white papers, the majority white press, them brothers starting the beginning, the beat writers and those guys, they're gonna be hamstrung, man, because they'll usually get one gig, like you're just covering Eastern Michigan or Western Michigan or Michigan State, and that's your job. This is our beat writers, or just the Pistons or the Tigers. Then you have your columnists who could write in the first person and express themselves inside a story. But most of those guys, they can't speak out. They can't even write in the first person. You have to write in the third person when you're doing beat writing, unless they have you write a analysis or something like that. So they can't do much. With the platform they have, as far as speaking out to issues, and that's just the way it is. Now, these big columnists that was there, like Bill Rote and all them, they left. But even when they were at the New York Times, when John Thompson and Chaney them started the Black Coaches Association, I don't know when it was, 1992 or whatever, and they was going to meet in Chicago. And they wanted a voice there to document it. They didn't ask Bill or Wilburn, even though Wilburn was right there in D.C.
He's from Chicago, yeah.
I hope they ain't listening to this. I don't want them to think I'm taking shade at my boys, but it's just a fact. John
Who do they bring in as the voice? To chronicle that?
Huh?
Who do they bring in as a voice to chronicle that?
Me. They found me in California.
Oh, we missed that part. You said we got to highlight that part. So let's go back. You said when John Thompson and John Chaney, late great, legendary coaches of college, started the Black College Coaches Association,
BCA.
They chose you.
They met in Chicago one summer.
In the home of Bill Wilburn, I'll say it for PTI part interruption and all that.
They told me to come to LA. And when I got there, I was the only reporter.
Why do you think they chose you?
Because I wrote it unfiltered. Because at that time, they was fighting for a lot of stuff. There was real issues on the table. First of all, there wasn't no black coaches, period. And then most of the white people weren't really fighting to get these kids graduated neither. So you got these issues, and there's no black people in the administration of the college sports experience, in the athletic directorship. So there's no advocates for them other than just playing that sport. There was no trainers, no assistant coaches. So the whole meeting was about, we got to sit down, we need to tell a story, and get it documented. and what we did was use the black press totally. We have a wire service called the NNPA, the National Newspaper Public Association, which is about the 5th largest publication in America because it's 200 member papers and it's we got like 20,000 readers, 15 to 20,000. So when we come as an organization, they got to listen to us because those numbers, our white brothers and sisters deal with numbers. They love
respond
numbers.
to the numbers. That's something to learn from. And then, I'm sorry, please.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. No.
I was going to say, with these new independent platforms, even being here on the SPS Edge Show, we don't got to go through mainstream. What do you see the future being by having these voices that really can't be silenced? Because there's no way to really silence us with the opportunities we have now to share these messages.
No, it isn't. Well, it's tougher on the population as a whole, because if we can't figure out where truth is, then we're going to fall for anything.
Absolutely.
And you've seen it already. They attacked the Capitol, for God's sakes. Well, how big is that? The United States of America? How many countries in the world have had a Capitol attack? Big countries.
And they downplay like it's nothing.
No, it ain't to be downplayed. None, is it? Not England, not France, not Italy, not us, not Russia, not China, but it happened here. So
I want to stay with that theme.
We're fragile. We're fragile.
I want to stay with that as we transition to the next two, and I want to make sure if Orlando and Terry got any comment. But I want to go back and thank Chris, because he did say that Bill Russell statue is up, and I think it is up near TD Garden. I forgot about that. So thank you, Chris Terrell, for reminding us of that. So that statue is up. But you talk about truth. I was going to just pose a question, what is truth? But maybe I'll put this image up first, and then I'll pose the question. Cap took a knee. Farve took millions from the welfare fund. I mean, we don't even got to go into the reality that we know he did it. We know that Brett Farve has text messages saying, how do we make sure Leland Stein, how do we make sure the media doesn't find out about this? But I want to wrap this in this thing about truth, because the feedback I've been getting from people is, yeah, we hear about Udoko and what's going on with Nia Long, but that shouldn't stop the coverage or the lack thereof we get it. And shout out to Orlando making a point earlier. He was like, dude, we was talking about crab legs and Jamin Winston and them $32 worth of crab legs that he stole for I don't know how long. And another one, we talk about Mike Vick.
He didn't steal them.
Oh, he didn't steal them.
No, they've been giving them to him for 2 years. They had a new manager in there. And the people handed it to him. The manager took it upon themselves to go, excuse me, fighting. They've been giving it to him since he won the national championship.
Well, let's talk about the obvious, which is the easy trope of entitled black athlete doing things. Because when you see the image, all you see in him is giving throwing up the deuces as he's walking out with them crab legs. And it was played over and over, and he was villainized for that.
Yeah, right? Walking around looking confused, acting like he didn't know what was happening, but he didn't know what was happening.
Yeah, and he had to walk it back, and all those type of things. But then we get the Brett Favre situation. We haven't heard any public statements. There is no fallout. If I turn to ESPN right now, it'll probably say Ime, and it probably won't say Brett. So talk about. Have you seen this story before, Brother Stein? And if so, what's the ending going to be?
Oh my God! Back to Jameis real quick though. Jameis was one of our Watkins Award scholar athletes. He had a 4.0 out of high school.
I didn't know that.
And then 3.8 when I was at Florida State, just so you know. Okay. Because we brought him to DC and honored him out of high school.
You being who? Which organization?
Called the National Alliance of African American Athletes.
Okay.
We honor the top 6 or 5 black male scholar athletes every year. We did in LA for about 8 years, and then we moved to DC. It's been in DC for the last 7 years, 6 or 7 years. So we fly them all in, and their parents and everything, and they all Americans, every last one. But they got 3.7s or better. So we're hoping that that's a whole nother story. I know you don't want me to get on that, do you?
We're gonna buy you back for that next one. That's gonna be the next one.
Yeah. But yeah, we I don't know. I think these stories that's going on right now, the black press has more power than we think it has. Unfortunately, they just don't have the money to employ these kids coming out of college now. And the white papers will hire some of them. So any smart kid is going to go try to make enough money doing that profession only and not having to do 2 jobs like I did. So I can't blame what the kids are doing now, but it just puts the black press in a tough situation. especially
I'm
with sports.
gonna throw one at you as someone who is financing my own business and what I have. And shout out to my guy William Bill Barber. That's my frat brother, one of my big bros, one of the OGs at Western Michigan, Epsilon Xi. He said, "Great show, first time viewer. I am impressed being a sports fan. This is cool." Okay, brother. And Bill, we talking with the great Leland Stein. He's a member of the Greek Life too. Noob, that is. I just want to say, do you think, and maybe you never thought about this, I'm gonna throw this at you. Do you think part of your effectiveness, your attractiveness, ability to catch these connections is you did not write based on your paycheck because you knew that you had something to cover you?
Wow, interesting.
I got a sports psychology background, man. I want
no, look, when you grow up on the West Side Cubs, and it's the only black team in the city, and each team got 200-something kids going out. You better get toughened up fast, do something, or else you're gonna sink or swim real fast. I don't know. So, and then, man, I just think when I put myself into a task, I take it serious. I didn't allow the access. Unfortunately, like some of the other young brothers we try to help out in LA, and even one or two here, we give them access, but they just more happy to be there, which is hard not to do that. You know what I mean? If you get in. But you got to write. You got to produce something. You know, you have to. And that's happened hard for the black press a little bit because people trying to do it secondarily. Now, the people that do political stuff are judges, lawyers, accountants, anybody anyway. So the black press will always get those. But when it comes to getting real action through sports and having a person do it, it's more problematic because money.
Right.
And so I don't know. Back in the old days, all the great black writers had to do it through the black press. There was no other way. But now that they have some options, of course, you probably choose somebody that's going to give you 20,000 versus somebody going to give you 8. You know, I don't know. So I don't know what it means or where it's going to end. But
we're going to see.
Yeah.
Well, we got one more topic we want to get to, a topic that you actually have a lot of influence in based on some great writing that you just did. But there was a recent report about which cities produced the most NFL players, birthed the most NFL players, I should say. And even if I don't have that image to pull up, the numbers I'll give you on that are, for those who are listening, it started with, I'll go in reverse order. Bear with me. Bradenton, Florida with 14. That's high school cities with the most NFL players. Tampa, Florida with 15.
Wow.
Detroit, Michigan with 16. And Miami, Florida, and Houston tied at 19. So basically 2022, Adam Scheffler reported that Brandon came in fourth. So you got 3 cities in Florida that rank, and then Detroit, Michigan. And then the segue to get you going, and I'm sure Terry McCord, our football savant, is going to want to jump on that. You talked about Detroit high school players currently in the NFL, and you led with Brandon.
No, this wasn't me. I didn't do that.
Okay, but you end up doing a
piece on Brandon Graham.
You did a piece on Brandon
Well,
Graham.
we listed the top defensive linemen of all time from Detroit Public School.
Let me stop you real quick just to put this image back up so people can see. I'll go in reverse order. Tavier Thomas with the Texans. He went to Allen Academy. Ulrich Jackson, he went to Renaissance. He's with the Rams. Samuel Womack, East English Village with the 49ers. Sauce Gardner, everybody knows him, with the defending state champion King. He's with the Jets, holding it down. Chauncey Golston with the East English again with the Cowboys. Avery Thomas, a King Crusader with the 49ers. Jalen Moore went to Consortium Prep with the 49ers. Donovan Peoples-Jones, a Cass Tech guy with the Browns. Michael Onwenu, Cass Tech again with the Patriots. Deshaun Phillips, Cass Tech again with the Ravens. Avante Maddox, King with the Eagles. Desmond King, East English with the Texans. Jordan Lewis, Cass Technician with the Cowboys. William Golston, Southeastern. My mother gonna love to hear that. She's a Jungleer with the Bucks. And also Jonathan Hankins, Southeastern with the Raiders. And again, your guy, Brandon Graham, 13 years in the NFL. So talk about this article that you just wrote about him, and that'll be a good way for us to be able to bring it all home.
The good part about that experience was I used it all. I went over to the Lions practice, and they called a Philadelphia coach. So I wanted to start with that, make it a real story. So they called him. I was able to talk to him about Brandon. And it's a great quote he put in there about Brandon, man. Wow, it's really beautiful. And then we was able to get Aiden Hutchinson. They have a little connection going, those two.
How so? They seem so far away from each other.
You got to read the story, okay? I ain't giving you nothing free.
You say, buy the book. Buy the book.
No, you ain't got to buy the book. Read.
I'm going to make sure that
use
this
your eyeballs. They
too.
free. No, I'm just teasing. Anyway, yeah, he
You went over there. You went to the practice. But you talk about what makes you give him that distinction of the best. Was that defensive lineman in the history?
Yeah, PSL history.
Okay,
this was
that's going back for a lot of people now.
But that's the beauty of it, Coach. We brought a Big Daddy Lipskin in there. I got to see you, Coach Wall. Did you remember Big Daddy?
I don't remember.
Oh my God. Okay. What about Bill Yerby?
Bill Yerby? No.
He went to Michigan. He was an All-American in Michigan. Yeah. But anyway, we bring up all these guys. We broke the list down to about 8. And I got a lot of PSL coaches, I called them, and they gave me a lot of names. And we broke it down to about 8 guys. And the distinction we found in there was that there's 3 of those guys all won Super Bowls. That were PSL defensive linemen. Do y'all know who those 3 are?
No, Graham won.
Graham won. Thank you. William Ghosted got one with Tampa Bay.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
And let's see, I got Brandon, William. Oh, Gilbert Brown with the Green Bay Packers. Him and Reggie White.
Didn't they name a hamburger after him?
Yes, the Grave Digger. But that was his nickname. His nickname was the Grave Digger.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we talk about all those guys in the Brandon story. We get to bring up some pretty good names in there, you know.
And I have to tell our viewers that if they go to the comment section, I put the link to that story in the comment section, so you can go to the comment section and they can read the story.
Well, y'all got technology going everywhere, don't they?
Hey man, look, hey, this is what you made it for. You got us to this point, and now you a part of it. You know, we're gonna make sure they do that and going forward. But we're getting to the close of the time, Brother Stein. I can't tell you how much I appreciate having you on. I'm sure I'm going to get all kind of feedback and comments about all the things you shared, the history you provided, and all those type of things. And with that being said, before I let Terry and Orlando wrap up, is there anything you want to say in closing for being on the show? We definitely know we want to have you on again in the future too.
Well, look, thanks for having me on, because I ain't out there trying to be on anything anymore. I'm kind of at a cool place. And
yeah, I had to wrangle you in a little bit. I said, come on, man. I said, come on.
But it's kind of cool, though, trying to remember that stuff. Make sure I just forget everything, because I'm not sure if I got it in me to write about all of it. You know, I got a little freedom right now, and I'm kind of playing grandpa. So
yeah,
got
you
6
twins,
grandsons,
right?
guys. 6 of them.
6. Oh,
woo.
Busy
Boy,
man.
We got it. Well, we'll keep you here for the last one. Terry, you got anything you want to share before we let you get out of here?
No, I really appreciate what you're doing, and I can't wait to dive in deeper about it. I mean, I looked over some of your stuff just before coming in for the show today, but just a ton of history, and I'm still stuck on that Wilt thing, man. We gonna have to have you come back. We're gonna have to debate on that.
Hey, you know what? Hey, let me tell you right now, Brother Stein, Terry, he gets people going where people be coming back looking for him. Like, wait a minute, Terry, because he'll hold his ground on the subject.
No, he should. That's
the
beauty about America, isn't it? We gotta be mad at each other. We can disagree. Well, we're supposed to be able to disagree.
Right.
Yeah.
Amicably. I ain't gonna make you agree with me. You don't have to.
I want to shout out my Farve brothers real quick before I get Orlando. Roddy Wilson, I know I slept on this in my lane. Example of Ezai Excellence. Talk about our chapter. That was the guy saying that this is an opportunity. Appreciate Roderick Wilson. He always on the show and saying we've been doing this for a minute. And William Barber, Bill, we know we appreciate you. Orlando, what you got for us before we get out of here?
I just want to tell Brother Stein, thank you. then please keep telling our story.
Thank you.
There we go. Enough said. With that being said, we were grateful to have Brother Stein stay with us this entire time. This is going to be a great one to go back and review and listen to. And I don't mind having guests, but if you ain't bringing it like Leland Stein III is bringing it, I don't know. Everybody ain't going to fit in this roster spot right here, man. You know, that's it. So with that being said, this is Lindsey Hudson with SPS and the SPS Edge Show. We'll see you guys next time. Oh, really quickly.
I'm just have to tune in and just watch y'all. Just sit back.
Yeah, you always
y'all's about to have me cracking up as it was.
We heard you laugh.
You got to police these two guys, man.
Oh man, you know what I'm dealing with. You see what I'm dealing with, right?
No, that's gonna need to police y'all a little bit.
Man, hey, but you ain't heard the words. We got some young ladies that come on here and they make comments.
Light it up.
Oh man, these young ladies so serious about sports. Tomorrow, everybody, I'm going to be moderating this event with the John Shipping Foundation, Brother Stein. You may be familiar with. Yeah, sponsored by Rocket Mortgage. So you want to work in the sports industry, you can go to johnshipping.com and go online, and there's going to be a virtual event taking place. I'll be the moderator. I'll be moderating the one event that talks about getting internship in the sports industry, and I'm going to have some great panelists. I'll say their names really quickly to give them their just due as far as what's happening with that, and that is it's going to be representation from the Detroit Lions. It's going to be representation from the Indiana Sting. We're going to have a lot of representation as far as CDW. I'm sorry, I just can't pull it up right now. But, I'm sorry, really quickly. We're going to have Keith Sanders, who's the Vice President of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion with CDW. That's right, CDW. Mm-hmm. Veronica Guerrero-Bonner, Senior Manager of People Operations of the Detroit Lions. Lauren Beasley, Social Media Manager for STN Digital. And DJ Briggs is a team leader in talent acquisition for Rocket Central. And that's going to be brought, I'll be moderating, representing Sports Psychology Solutions as well. So that's going to take place tomorrow, and it'll be available online if you go to that link. So grateful. And lastly, next week, Friday, September 30th will be the SPS game of the week. It's going to be DeWitt versus Grand Ledge, and it's being brought to you by Manna Constarian. I'm appreciative of them and the support they're providing SPS, and I'll just let you see that image. These are great individuals, accountants, and technology advisors to work with. And I'm grateful for their support. Shout out to Trey and company for supporting that. So with that, done all the work we need to do. Thank you, Brother Stein. Thank you, Terry McCord, and thank you, Orlando Watkins, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Peace and love.